Hello, everyone, and welcome to Metaphysical Mondays, Mental Health, Mysticism, and Metaphysics Discussion with Mike Ray and Dr. Gil Tivon. We have a great episode ahead of us. This will be another great podcast. We are continuing our discussion of healing through metaphysics and what we can use in our knowledge of mysticism and the esoteric to apply it to our lives so that we can actually influence not only ourselves and create change from within, but then to start to change our external reality. And that is what we are trying to do, is trying to create a better life for ourselves, therefore, and then we are able to create a better world. So, without further ado, I will turn it over to the man of the hour. Let's give him the power, our beloved Dr. Gil Tivon, everybody. Dr. Gil Tivon.
Hi to you all, and good evening to all of you and my dear friend Mike. So, for those people that didn't hear last time, but that's okay, it's all on YouTube or on Facebook. So I take each session on its own, but we will recap what did we have the last part of the series when we were here together 2 weeks ago. We summed up by saying that for men, essential self is jailed by nothing. So your own jail is your own illusion or the way that you feel. It's either by addictions or by fear or by worries. And we know that fears belong to the past and worries belong to the future. If we learn to live in the here and now, definitely most of our trouble are going to leave us. It doesn't mean that we are oblivious of what is happening. It means that we are very much aware of what happened, but we're able to flush it away, we're able to let it go. It doesn't mean that we're oblivious of the future worries that are haunting us right now. It means that nevertheless, they don't really exist, mostly only in our mind. Who said that that's exactly what will be? So let's handle it day by day, calmness, because only with calmness and peace of mind can we handle them. So today's lecture is revolving around a very, very deep topic of man and his own shadows. And I will introduce it in a different way, but really what it is ourselves, are the two halves that we have inside us, Jekyll and Hyde, Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde, and the shadows that we experience every day in our lives, and how should we be able to handle that on an ongoing basis, because that's the essence of a human being. We are made of two parts. So certain basic principles form the foundation of the mystical path. One of them, which we are going to meet now, and we will repeat it quite a lot, is the way that we grasp it and make everything clear, and that is an individual lives with two conflicting selves within oneself. When I say oneself for himself, I mean yourself, you lady, you man, you girl, you boy, whoever you are, we respect all of you and love all of you. So that is your true self and your false self. What do I mean by that? Why should I have a false self? So the more you grow into this world, and that's maybe one of the biggest Kabbalistic secrets that we have, and we are in a session of healing in metaphysical science, I understand that, but on an ongoing basis, we should know that we, at the end, would want to make a very fine wholesomeness of ourselves. So what am I referring to, the true self and the false self? Well, we can call it the true self and our shadows. We can call it our ego versus our soul. We can call it our positive selves versus the negative self. We can call it our separate self versus a united self. We can call it our judgmental self versus our compassionate and kind self. And Kabbalah calls it, in short, the evil inclination versus a very good inclination. And it's not only part of us. So Kabbalah says as follows: the evil inclinations is a natural, innate understanding that controls all our physical drives, our materialistic lusts, and it's built within us. In other words, if I know that an enemy is at the door or at the window, I will know to recognize him and where to pursue him. But when that enemy, and he is an enemy, a very evil, cannibal enemy is hiding within me, it's very difficult to acknowledge it, understand it, and even to attack it or to reject and we stand away from it. And all of us are built this way. And it's incredible. In other words, we've got a hidden spy within us that he was put there on purpose to make us work against resistance, to make us reject and fight against resistance, and work very, very hard to separate between our true self and our shadows and our dark side and our ego side. Let's go into this as follows. The false self consists of everything which is negative within the person, which is our being envious, helpless, victimizing, angry, despairing. We are worried. We are very critical, unstable, foolish, and full of animosity. No happiness at all. Suicidal, right? Many religions call it the false self or the devil or the sinful self. And philosophy, many philosophical books call it the lower nature. Modern psychology, and it's beautiful over here because we're integrating everything. So we're not projecting one thing or the other. We're not negating anything. I'm bringing you all opinions, and you call it whichever way you like, but we all agree that it exists very much within us. So modern psychology calls it the ego self that lives in ourselves as an illusion. So this illusion is very real in our lives, but it only lives within us. It's a puff. It's there, but it's a ghost, which makes us believe that it really does exist. But beyond this physical, materialistic existence, there is no place to it. I'm giving you clues along the way. Beyond this physical, materialistic, lustful, craving existence, there is no reality to it. We give it reality by giving it power, by calling it the man of the hour, by allowing it to exist, very much like the story goes, where a person got outside of his yard, a sheep and a wolf, and his guests ask him, well, who's going to live? Who's going to survive? Well, it's quite simple. Obviously, the wolf. And the man says, no, it depends who I feed. If I feed the wolf, well, the wolf is very, very strong and powerful and fuel. It's going to devour the goat or the sheep. But if I'm not going to feed it, it's going to die on its own. Very interesting. So whatever the name is, the cause of it, of all, is creating an inward pressure which explodes outwardly in wars, in interactions with people, in crimes, in social tragedies, in people fighting at home, right? And they reach couple therapy, or people have their own addictions, or their own worries, or their own stress, all the trouble that we experience in our generation is rooted within that internal power because we haven't recognized it and because we don't know what to do about it or how to negate it or how to overpower it, if at all. So that's what we're going to discuss. So this is a very, very important topic. Why is it metaphysics? Because this is not only science, this is not only physics, it's metaphysics. It's over and beyond. It's something which is in the realm of the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, and the behavioral self that we experience, each one of us. And it takes us many years, sometimes decades, if at all, to recognize it and then to start and fight it in a peaceful way. Now, man, when I say man, I mean man, woman, and human being. A man is dominated by his false self, and if he doesn't live his day. He's driven through that false self. He's hounded by compulsive desires. He's pained by automatic anger. He's scared by unrealistic imagination. There's a wolf coming out there. There's my bank manager is going to call me tomorrow, the IRS. Because he identifies with these terrors, listen to the key word, because you identify, because it haunts you to the point that it actually gives you the illusion that this is reality. So you identify with those terrors, with those traumas, with those fears, with those stresses, because you wrongly take yourself as your false self. In your desperation, which becomes endless. So you clutch by this unforeseen or unseen enemy. And as Francois Fenelon have said, the entire root of our problem is that we cannot get it out of ourselves because it lives inside us. So if this is the case and this is the problem, and this is the black box with which we were made, created by God himself, well, how can I negate it? What does God want from me? Well, that's only the beginning of the story. Of course, he wants us to hold it down. Of course, he wants to negate it. Of course, he wants us to resist it and work against resistance. And think about it. If you love tennis, for example, or baseball, or any kind of game, or judo or karate, there is no way that you can grow if you only fight or play or compete against yourself. You're going to be the world champion against yourself. You can never be that. You have to have a competitor. You have to get an opponent which is fighting with you, even if it's a friendly match. That's the way we grow. The secret here is that enemy, that evil enemy, is hiding within you. So first you have to find him. Then you have to find his weaknesses, where he always makes you fall. And once you do, that's where the game begins. It can be when you're 20. It can be when you're 5. It can be that you never come to the stage of growth, of evolution, where you realize that this is your greatest arch enemy that you have within. Now, it is utterly useless for a man to try to change or reform your old nature again. So you say to yourself, okay, this is who I am, and this is the reality. So let me try and negate it. Let me try to transform it. Let me try to make out of my angry self something else. Well, your angry self is your angry self. This is your nature that God has given you, and you get agitated very quickly. You are impulsive. There are certain behaviors that we can change, but your very innate nature cannot be changed. It's unchangeable. So what can we do about it? This is very true what I'm telling you. This is not the way. The way to try to negate it, to overpower it, to transform it. Many people, many philosophers, many wise people throughout the ages for thousands of years have tried to do it, mostly unsuccessfully. So what is the right way about it? This is what this lecture is about. Again, it's not my wisdom, it's wisdom of many, many centuries and thousands of years which I've delved into to try and find answers about that, partly through Kabbalah, right, which is very interesting. So you cannot improve it in any way whatsoever if you try to change or reform it. Maybe your behavior, but the essence cannot be changed. It's like you waking up one day, Michael Ray, and you say, I'm not Michael Ray, I'm somebody else. Michael Ray is Michael Ray. You want to have your identity. You cannot wake up one day and be John Doe. You cannot. You have to be who you are, authentic and true to your inner self. So here's where everyone is making this great mistake. You think that you can change your false self, and that is impossible. The false self makes promises to yourself which it can no more keep than a hawk can promise to change itself into a dove. Can a hawk change into a dove? And it's a beautiful little story which I wrote only this week to myself before publication, which some people very much know this story, and those that don't will enjoy it. Those that do, there's an end message to it which you'll enjoy with me. The frog was waiting by the lakeside to try and cross the lake through swimming, because frogs are very good at swimming. As we know, scorpions cannot swim. So the scorpion asked, he said, hi, buddy, how you doing, bro? I want you to give me a piggyback on your back to the frog all across the river or the lake. So the frog really smiled and scoffed and said, no way. You are a real killer. You're going to sting me along the way because I'm going to drown. I'm not going to give you a piggyback. So the scorpion said, but, I'm wise just like you. You're very smart. We both know that if I will sting you along the way, we're both going to drown and die. No way am I going to sting you. Okay, so he thought about it for a while. The frog said, makes sense. Logic wins. He's not going to steal me because if he does, he's going to wave away his life and mine. Okay, I'm going to give you a piggy ride. So both go one on top of the other across the river, and lo and behold, halfway through, the scorpion stings the frog. Boom! And both start to drown. And the frog is really not only angry and dying, but he's complaining and shouting, "Why did you do it? This is very stupid of you. We're both going to drown and die." And so the scorpion answers him, "What can I do? I'm a scorpion." Meaning as follows. You can lie to yourself, you can pretend to yourself that you're someone else. You can work at your behavior, but that's cosmetics. But when the push comes to shove, your real innate nature is going to surface out. So if you're going to try and fool yourself and say, well, I'm not an angry person, I'm not a compulsive person, I'm not an impatient person, and that is your nature, that's a problem. I know myself, I'm very fast with that. And in my thinking and my ways, I'm not impatient. But when somebody comes my way that takes, let's say, when I'm waiting in line for it, fries or it's Walmart or anywhere else, a Target, and somebody like yesterday happened in the afternoon, an old lady really was taking her time with every little item, and she speaks so long, and my time is running. So we are at different speeds completely. So I work at my patients. I was smiling at the old lady, and she's the one that I have to buy through. But I listened to myself and said, Gil, you will not change. I can work at my behavior. I can definitely be patient with her. But she took half an hour, which I don't have, not because I don't have, because my nature wants to run ahead. My nature wants to go to the next stage. And she's the opposite. We could never make friends. We could never love together under the same roof because we're different. So if you try to fool yourself and say, no, I'm a frog, but you are a scorpion, you'll end up understanding that you sting each other. Meaning, our innate nature is given, and we have to take it as a given. And therefore, there's a beautiful statement by Ralph Waldo Emerson in his book, The Experience, a very spiritual book, which is as follows. Of what use is it to make heroic vows of amendment if the same old law breaker is to keep them again? Of what use is to make heroic vows? I promise you I'm going to change my ways. I promise myself I will never do it again. I will never take drugs. I will never get addicted. I will never gamble again. I will never drink again. I will come home on time. I won't be a workaholic. Whatever it is, right? If the same old law breaker is to keep them. That's your nature. And that nature of yours stands in the way of your success. So God has created a problem. It's not only China, it's a great problem. And we have to sort it out and to understand how to go about it. But trying to fix or rectify or correct a corrupted system within ourselves, that Kabbalah itself confirms we cannot fix that broken thing. It's too corrupted. It was created evil, and it should stay in its place. So what can be done? You understand? That is the question. So we're going to start answering the problem, and then we're going to change from our own custom today. And if anyone is online that would like to share with us anything that they are being challenged with or holding that is very much along the lines we're talking about, then you can come online, or you can write it in the chat, and I will try to either work with you as a beautiful example for all of us, and you can stay anonymous, or if you want through the chat, you can come online as you wish and try and see how do we work with it. Right. Or Mike can introduce it himself if that's the way you want it. So how are we going to overcome the barriers to our own happiness? The false nature cannot be and need not be changed. So hold on, what are you telling me? This is corrupted, this is a shadow. It has to be fixed, it has to be rectified. Tikkun. Not yes, but not this way. But it can be dissolved and replaced by the true self. Imagine you have, and my brother did it under his canopy when he got married, his back. in South Africa, where his wife to be, Nikki, she has a twin. They look exactly the same. So they made a joke, and under the canopy, just before, a minute before the wedding, she changed with her sister. She said, "Oh, Ariel, my beloved Ariel, we're gonna get married." So he could see in the eyes, he already knew it. Say, no. That's not my wife to be. That's your twin sister. Don't fool me around. Right? They made a joke of it, but it could have been a very little joke. Point being, you cannot fool you cannot fool yourself by trying to fix something which is wrong. You can definitely be very truthful to yourself by bringing the true wife to be, the true bride, the true self. And once you bring the true self is soul, the true self is light, the true self is compassion, the true self is kind. There is no need to fix. You need to change the program. You need to change the avenue, the channel, the vibration in which you allow this world to be. Instead of being judgmental, instead of being critical, instead of being victimized, instead of being separate, instead of being lonely, then you connect to unity, you connect to the divine, you connect to compassion, to kindness, you swap your channel. And then there's no need anymore to try and fight the evil because you are already in a different vibration. I think you understand where I'm going. So a hawk can never change into being a dove, but it can be replaced with a dove. Take the hawk out, bring in the dove. Remember, the false self is false. I cannot make of wrong something right. I cannot make a lie into the truth. I can call a spade and say, you are a liar, or you're lying, or you're fraud, you're a scam. But I cannot make of somebody who's a scam, somebody is good. And I'm sure most of us, I'm the first to have found such people everywhere around, on different kind of social networks. They try to scam us, try to fraud us every day in our Western world, Eastern world, spiritual leaders, small people, simple people. We all had it, right? So you cannot change, you cannot transform something false into something right, something evil into something good. But you can say it really doesn't exist. And if you believe in that non-existing illusory self, then you give it power. And then you make it the man of the hour. And that's wrong. In reality, there's only one self, the right bride, the right soul, only one power. That power is the power of the soul within you. And if somebody knows the 12 steps, that's part of the first step. Acknowledging that you have been fooled by some kind of an illusion, and now you're negating and giving all your power to this higher power of God. There's only one true self. Don't try to make of the false one your friend. It's not going to work because it doesn't really exist. I can't make a ghost into a real self. The true self is your highest self. That's the soul within our inner temple. That's divine within men, right? It's the kingdom of heaven within us. Whichever way you want to call it, whichever religion, we all speak the same language, and this is what it means. So since every man, by man I mean man, woman, and child, right, possesses this true self, it is your God-given right. What are our possibilities once we release it? And the way to release it is through our awareness of its existence. So first of all, the first step is acknowledge the fact that you have weaknesses, that you have a false self, that you've been allowing yourself to fall into all kinds of illusions, and that belongs to all of us. And I'm first, right? Ego trips, or victimizing, or complaining, or being sad or depressed, or whatever it is. It's all a false self that we gave into because it made us believe that this is our true self, and we identified with it. So first of all, we have to identify it, acknowledge it, and put it away from us. This is me. This is you. You're not my friend. You will never be my friend. I don't want you to make my friend. I don't want to correct you either, or to fix you, because you are corrupted. You are evil to start with. Very evil. That's the way God made you, and my whole point is to negate you and to learn from you what is right. See the movie Beautiful Minds. He only got out of his schizophrenic self, Professor Nash. Right? It's a real movie. By acknowledging that those people that he's seeing within the images never grow. They never grow. And then he started to heal. And they followed him even to get the Nobel Prize. They were still there at the same age. And he learned to push them away because he could never make them his best friends, Charlie and other people he saw, because they were always fake. You cannot befriend them. And this is a wonderful statement of Walt Whitman in his Song of Myself, who writes, I exist as I am, that is enough. If no other in the world is aware of it, of my true existence, I sit content. You do not have to convince people and to pretend to be someone else. You don't have to walk around with other people to make them like you, in order to drink away your life, in order to like you, in order to play Russian roulette on the road, in order for your friends to like you, to be cool. You don't have to go around naked if this is not who you are, in order to make people like you and think that you're very cool or super cool, or whatever it is that you want to do. You don't have to date somebody and kiss him at the end of the night if you're not up to it. You don't have to. You don't have to go on fasts or run to the forests of Peru if you're not up to it. Don't lie to yourself. Don't try to be who you're not in order to be liked, in order to give yourself credence and value and existence through others' eyes of their expectation. The more you stand your ground, the more you lead your true self. This is the way I am. This is truly because then you don't care about what other people think, because you're very happy with who you are. You're true with your own inner self. Our task is to dissolve the imagery itself and love from our real center of being. It is the only way to human health, but it is the sure cure. It is the sure cure to love from within our inner self. I'm going to be about 2-3 minutes and I'm going to allow you questions. It is like removing a distorting blanket from a statue, enable us to see the true form. Until that time, we were unable to see the real form. So I find that the greatest single barrier to attaining this level is man's secret assumption that he already knows all the answers to your problem. No, you don't. You think you're seeing through very clear lenses life. But I can tell you, and I've been around about 2-3 years already in this world. Yes, and I remember my previous lives as well. I'm an ancient soul, right? That every time you come around, every 10 years or so, you suddenly go to an awakening and say, my God, I've been sleeping till now. I've been living a false life. Because every time you grow and you go up a level and you peel off a layer, you realize that the previous layer was completely and utterly, or at least a bit of a lie that you lied to yourself, not your fault. It's part of living in this world. So a tremendous power works for men who miss the challenging problem with the honest admission, I don't know the answer. And then you turn your own helplessness, that's the first step of the 12 steps, over to the power, to that endless power of God. And then you enable God to reveal the answer to you through dreams, through intuitions, through connecting to your higher self, through meditation. You don't always know all the answers. If you think you know them all, that's the first step to oblivion. If you realize that you don't, you go to a spiritual mentor or master. You negate and you say to God, I confess that I don't know. I think I'm going the right direction, but I'm not sure. I suspect myself that maybe I'm living in a falsehood, in a pretense, in a lie. Right. And I see that my addictions are great. I see that I live a life which is running around the rat about all kinds of things, and I don't like my life the way it is. My higher self is calling me and saying, you're not living the life that you should be living. And therefore, it's just like a person who is hypnotized and he only knows himself under hypnosis, he thinks that's a real self. Or you're having a real nightmare, and in the roller coaster during the nightmare, you believe this is real life, only to be waken up by the watch or by the clock in the morning. Oh, it was just a dream. So when you wake up from your dream, when you wake up from your hypnosis, then you can start to break the spell and see what is your true self and which way should you be going. So this is first part of this session, which is incredibly interesting because it really starts to open up the engine of life and to see where we're going wrong and how to peel off the first layer of yourself, of the ego, and how to go deeper and find that path of the mystic, which is the true self towards healing. Thank you so much. Now, questions? Mike, others, people in the throat, if you want to come online, go ahead.
Okay. We have just a couple questions already.
That's great.
Okay. They do not want to be brought up on camera right now,
That's fine.
but I will ask the questions. In fact, I will even type them up just so people can see them. One of the questions that we had is, just allow me to create a new slide here so that people can read with us, is how does one manage balancing between these two selves, between this lower self and this higher self aspect, this lower aspect where we are very, I guess you
Right.
could say, animalistic, very, have a lot
So
of
that's a very
urges,
good question.
cravings. How do we balance this?
So that's a very good question. And so look, nobody's saying to shut away ourselves from the physical world. We live in it, we need it, and we have spoken on a Thursday night in Kabbalah classes. We were made out of the physical, and we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. And so we should transform the physical into becoming our own temple. We should transform relationship with people to something very holy, very transcendent, very sanctified. Absolutely. So the balance is keep your feet on the ground and reach for the sky. We do not remove ourselves from our lives and becomes monk. Look, when we call a monk a holy person, this is not a real truth. Kabbalah very much rejects that very concept. Why? Because if you look at the Trinity, the Holy Trinity is mind, body, and soul. So if I negate my body, I don't live a complete life because I'm made of flesh and blood, because I have all kind of physical urges. I need to rest, I need to procreate, I need to eat, I need to enjoy myself, I need to go working. It's no big deal to run away from the world to the Himalayas and be a monk over there and shun away life and say I'm holy. No, that's trying to be an angel and negating the real life. So Kabbalah is not for it, against it. And even the wisest of all men, King Solomon, has said very seriously, very much in an adamant way in the end of the book of Ecclesiastic, saying that don't try to be too righteous, don't remove yourself from the physical existence. So the right balance is live a physical life, but elevate the physical to become spiritual. Use your emotions, your mentality, your spirituality to influence and impact your physical. Use your physical to drive you forward. I cannot make a move without walking. Then use your physical to push along your spiritual. Use your spiritual to make a progress in your physical. If I want a degree, you have to have your intention, you have to get the files, you have to have the vision, which is all mental, emotional, spiritual, to move along this world. And this got a very good purpose to it. In the same way, I have to subjugate my physical to help me with the spiritual. I have to sleep enough, rest enough, bathe enough, eat enough, everything within the no, go to gym enough, exercise enough, play tennis enough, whatever it is that you want, in order to push along your spiritual. Otherwise, this balance, this very delicate balance, is many times compromised, and life is not as healthy as we know. Mind, body, and soul being healthily balanced is the key to that. That does not mean that in that process I should listen to my evil inclination. I must recognize it, acknowledge it, separate myself from it, and be an advocate of the divine to push along the agenda that I wish to be. Should there be failures on the way, should there be pitfalls along the road, but understanding and negating them and every time getting better with it, that's best. Last thing, If we read The Wisest of All Men, he said as follows, and this King Solomon said, 7 times a righteous man is going to fall, 8 times going to rise. What does it mean? It means you love and learn. You grow through experiences, through being mistaken. Don't harakiri yourself. Don't suicide when you fall. It happens to all of us, to the best of us. You try something, it didn't work out. You fell into addiction. You fell into lies. Whatever it is that you fell into, pick yourself up, not the end of the road, try again. And again, each time you learn from it, you become better, till you pull yourself away from that addiction, from that evil inclination, till you know, I'm not going to fall into this anymore. And you mastered that craft. And God loves you when you do that, because that's the greatest challenge. That's the peaceful warrior we are, to fight your evil inclination, your shadows, to negate it, to be a peaceful warrior with it. I want to believe that this answer will help you start your journey with it. Another question, Mike, if there is?
Okay. All right. Thank you
Very good.
for that wonderful answer. I think that that answers actually the next question too, which is, and let me just type this up so everyone else could see it as well. The next question is going to be, how does somebody identify their lower urges, or when something is coming from their physical and not from the higher? For example, the example that is given is love. How does one, discern between whether something is coming from a place of the divine or a higher self or our lower self?
Very, very good and deep question. I thank whoever asked this. Thank you so much for your wonderful question. Love. Love is a very, it's a very difficult and challenging matter, because you feel, and I'll explain the question, you feel that you really love the person. But the truth is, and I'll give you something out that's happened this week in a couple therapy in my clinic. It was online because it was overseas, of a young couple going out together before marriage. And the girl, who is my client, I know her for many years, she was very tired. So she told the guy over the phone, I'm very tired. Let's carry on speaking tomorrow. No, I need to speak now. But I'm telling you, I'm very tired, my dear. Let me go to sleep. We'll carry on tomorrow. No, just one last thing. You can fall asleep and just listen to me. Who is he loving now? Is he loving her and listening to her needs? Is he really loving her? Is this really called love per se? Or is he loving himself? Well, the truth is really only loving himself. Love is about loving the other person for who they are. If you negate your partner, if you are jealous of their success, if you don't allow them to progress for who they are, your wife-to-be is a very smart, bright girl. She wants to learn to finish a degree, a few degrees. Let her be. She's a public speaker. Let her be. You feel very jealous and possessive. That is not love. Possessiveness, jealousy is separateness. It's ego. That's not true love. You're loving yourself. So every step of the way you ask yourself, who am I doing it for? Am I the jealous hubby? Am I the jealous lover who's thinking about myself? But then you don't love her, you love yourself. I love your hair when it goes, it flows in the you don't love her, you love yourself. Imagine the following. You go into a beautiful restaurant and you order this beautiful fish, salmon, tilapia, whatever it is that you like. And then the waiter asks you, say, this the best that you, yeah, I love this fish. And then when you get it, it's all fried and broiled and everything else. You take and you dig in and you cut it to pieces and you shove it down your throat. Man, excuse me, so you said that you love this fish. Yeah, I love it. So why do you eat and gobble up and devour what you love? This is not what we do to who we love. This is what we do to who we love ourselves. In love, many times you pretend, you falsely think that you love the other person. But truly, as long as she or he does your bed, does what is good for you, you love them for who you are. You never actually love the other person for who they are. A mom loves a child for who he is. That's the way we should mimic it and copy paste when it comes to male and female or adult love between two people, that we should love them for who they are. And if we don't, if we're jealous, if we're possessive, if we don't want them to grow, if we want them all for ourselves and let them and cut them away from different kind of social ties, if we want them to look our way, if we want them all to spend time with us, we don't love them. We pretend to love them. We lie to ourselves. We love us for us. It's a very, very difficult thing to do. Let's go deeper for a minute. If I'm an appeaser and I negate myself completely for others, Gil, are you available? Sure, I'm available. 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, whatever you want, and I negate my cleaning, negate my family, then I don't love myself either. I think that I'm getting loved by appeasing others. That's also false self-love. Healthy self-love is knowing your boundaries as well. Yes, I can help you right now. No, right now I cannot. Let's do it tomorrow. Or let's find the right framework in which I can help you, and I'm all for it. Love your fellow as you love yourself. But if the point of it is negating yourself, then you should question yourself. Am I really loving here the other on account of completely negating myself? Because what am I getting from it? Significance, appeasing others, right? Crumbs of love back. What is it about? If the answer is either negating the other or negating oneself, doing it for me instead of them, doing it for them instead of me, then that's not love. That's pretense, and that's feeding the shadows, that's feeding the wolf. Last question, Mike. We've got 90 seconds in which I have to give up the time in the room. Please go ahead if you have any more. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. All right. Thank you again for that wonderful answer. We have just one last question, and again, this ties everything together. This goes into what we discuss in our Inner Secrets Revealed Kabbalah class podclass, excuse me. And this is, how do we align our will with the divine will of the universe, or as we have spoken of, the universal consciousness, this, this one singular mind. And I'm bringing up a illustration right now
Yes, right.
that we show from time to time on Inner Secrets Revealed. And this illustrates the Kabbalistic tree of life and the depiction of how this source of all of this consciousness, this will, this divine will, how it emanates through us, through our bodies, and as this illustration shows, where these meridians and where these um, centers are, the sphera, as we call them, where they are on the human body. So,
Correct.
again, the question is, how does one begin to connect our lower will, I guess, as we've identified our false self? How does one begin to identify their false self? Excuse me. How does one begin to connect their false self to this higher self? So this goes back to what we were saying before.
Yes, so there's a deeper underlying question over here, which is, and the truth is of the matter, the more you study, the more you delve into mystical teachings, the more you cleave and you make yourself a spiritual master, a mentor that loves you and has got no interests of getting anything from you, but accompany you along your journey till you see the light yourself and can kindle that light for someone else. Many times we make left turns, we should make right. Many times we get stuck in the cul-de-sac, which means there's a no dead end in the middle of the road because we don't do or see the right way in front of us. And so we must access our higher self. We must access that point where we listen to our inner intuition and say, is that path, is that journey, is the direction, is the choice, the decision I'm making right now, is it the right one in God's eyes? Well, who knows what God, of course it is. No. How do I know what God's will is? The more you study the Word of God, the more you line up or you hook up with spiritual mentors who made their lives understanding God's will and are impartial towards your decision, meaning they're not really connected. They won't have any interest in your personal decision except from helping you along with compassion. The more you will know that this is the right path for you. And the rule of thumb is as follows. If you feel that you are being driven by passion and lust for the material, if you feel that you're driven by the ego, if you feel you get more separate, victimizing, depressed, angry with your decision, then you should really suspect that the decision is not the right decision for yourself. And so take a very good friend, take a spiritual mentor, somebody who's really good, holy, that knows what they're doing in order to help you along, especially at those junctions in life which are so important. Which university, which wife, which direction your career, which business adventure should you go with? These are not everyday kind of decisions, but these are sometimes life-making decisions which are so important that if you go left, if you take the blue pill, there's no way of taking the red pill also. I thank you very much. I have to finish it because I've been called. I have a calling, right? I'm listening to the divine who wants me somewhere else right now. So hope that was, for my end, it was very, very powerful. It was very good. I believe this question Q&A are very good as well. I'm sure that whoever will listen to them and will read through them or be with us has really gained, like myself and Mike. We thank you very much. We'll see each other on Thursday night in the Kabbalah class. We're going to amazingly see more beautiful things, even for those people who went with us before. See you then, 7 p.m. Arizona time. As you can see, it's extremely hot over here. It's maybe 110, and it's nighttime. It's dark outside, but that's what we're having.
Okay, and thank you to Dr. Gil Tivon for that very enlightening lecture portion of the podcast and for those amazing answers. Okay, I will just bring up one last time some of those questions, which, again, as Dr. Tivon pointed out, those are great questions. So just to do a quick summarization real quick, we will go over once again what we have learned so far. So we have the question that comes to mind is, how do we manage between our two selves? Of course, as Dr. Tivon went over, the key is balance. And what we are trying to do is we are trying to elevate the physical to become spiritual. And we can do that by bringing the spiritual to the physical to transform it. There's ways to do this, which are through prayer or meditation, where we focus on the higher and on the spiritual, and we focus on bringing it into the physical. Now, we can do this same process with the physical, reaching out to the higher. Sometimes there are physical things which we can do, as in praying or reading scripture, studying the Word of God so that we understand the will of God, or rather the universal consciousness. And this doesn't just mean reading the Bible. This means reading, as the Bible would refer to it, as signs and different codes or different ways in which the mind of God speaks to us, or this universal consciousness. So, of course, there are many different ways in which we can identify the higher and the spiritual, and identifying the lower, our physical and carnal urges or desires, things that are animalistic, things that are driven by lower vibrational frequencies and feelings. Then that is how we know that it is not of God. Now, another good question was how we discern between the lower and the higher. And again, we just covered this very much in depth. The perfect example being love. You have to question, what is it that you love? Is it the person? Is it something about the person? Is it something about how the person makes you feel? Or are you truly loving them as an individual for who they are and not for what they are to you? Not what they are for you or what they are, in reality, but the image that you hold of them, this idea that you have of them within your head. And then, of course, we have this illustration, this lovely illustration of the Kabbalistic tree of life, showing the divine will, and then the will of the universe, the human collective will, and then all the way at the bottom, Spira, which is Malkuth, or kingdom, which represents this entire earth, and within us, it represents the physical body, the lowest self, this ego self. And what we are trying to do is reach all the way up to that divine will, to that crown where we have understanding, wisdom, and true godly knowledge and wisdom. And of course, the last question was how we connect the lower to the higher divine will of consciousness, which we just, again, touched briefly upon. The more something makes us feel that we are being driven by the divine and those things which are good in the eyes of God, which we can learn from reading the words of the scriptures, or even just studying ourselves and how it makes us feel. If we eat a certain food and it has a negative reaction on us, then it is going to, maybe not be a good idea to continue with this. So these are just very simple things that we can apply, and it really is something that we can keep simple. So right now I am going to put up, as always, Dr. Gil Tivon's contact information, and we will be here same time, same place, with even more to learn next time. Thank you, everybody, once again, very much for joining us. I am Mike Ray with Metaphysical Sciences TV, and this has been Metaphysical Mondays, Mental Health, Mysticism, and Metaphysics Discussion with Mike Ray and Dr. Gil Tivon. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day, or night, or evening.